Thanks a lot, Shelley. You have to admit, getting stuck in traffic or waiting for a ride, not a pleasant experience, but the warm, sunny weather that we're having, definitely perfect for Opsail 2000.
Well, you couldn't ask for better weather. Meteorologist Justin Kiefer joining us down here in New London tonight, and you'll see what we were talking about last night. It's beautiful weather for this.
You couldn't ask for better weather. You could, but you're not going to get it. This is like stealing the weather we've had the last couple of days. Now, it's going to change a little bit for us as we get more toward the weekend, but what's going to come up for us over the next 24 hours is a little bit more humidity. That'll be in the picture. Let's take a look at today's numbers. Just an absolutely gorgeous. These are statistics for Bradley International Airport. A high temperature 84, the morning low 55. Not much better than that. A crisp morning and a nice cool evening now. It was kind of warm this afternoon, but humidity levels down. Well, that's the change that's coming for us. Humidity will be creeping back up, and what's going to happen is that humidity is going to build a couple of showers. Will it spoil the weekend plans? I'll have those details coming up in my Fox forecast in just a couple of minutes.
All right, thanks, Justin. Of course, there is much more still to come on Opsail Live from New London tonight.
But there's also more news happening in the state of Connecticut tonight, so we're going to check in with Fox 61's Carolee Salerno back in the studios in Hartford for a preview of those stories. Carolee.
All right, Brent and Susan, thank you very much. Well, there are big plans for a proposed Yukon football stadium that go well beyond football. United Technologies plans to put a research park, stores, and a new neighborhood on the East Hartford site. Rescue workers continue to dig, and the Fox Force comes to Hartford. It's a new professional tennis league with Monica Seles headlining. We'll have those stories and much, much more coming up. But first, let's go back to Brent and Susan. Brent.
Righty, thanks a lot, Carolee. There is much more to come on this live edition of the Fox 61 News at 10 from State Pier in New London tonight.
Well, up next, a local favorite with quite a history is in the center of this week's festivities. We will hop aboard the Amistad right after the break.
Plus, we'll hear from the man who they call captain of the Amistad. He's
the forecast.
Well, welcome back to New London. You know, today had extra special meaning for one tall ship. The Amistad sailed into New London, second in line in the parade of sail.
And what's very interesting is that the Amistad actually was built at Mystic Seaport. It's a replica of the 19th century slave ship that ended up in Connecticut after the Africans on board killed their captors. Today, Fox 61's Lynn Joliker was on board.
The sun is rising.
Let's go, all the way.
On a journey that will never end.
It is a touchstone, something you can physically get the connection between that historical story and the contemporary concept that everyone has human rights.
Take up the burden.
The Amistad's crew of 12 isn't only manning the rigs, they're raising awareness about the plight of 53 Africans who killed their Spanish captors on the original Amistad in 1839. They were captured in Long Island Sound. Tried for murder in Connecticut, authorities freed them after learning they were kidnapped to be sold as slaves in Cuba. Today is truly a recreation of history, not just because the Amistad is being unveiled here in Connecticut, but you can see the Coast Guard Eagle is leading us into New London. 160 years ago, the USS Washington led the Amistad from Long Island Sound up the Thames after the mutiny.
Oh, I think this is really very, very significant.
Amistad America will operate the vessel as a sailing classroom. Dan Bregman joined the crew after helping build the ship.
We need to get them while they're young, you know, get kids on board and teach them the story. And basically, you know, try to eliminate ignorance.
Students will perform internships living and working on the New Haven-based vessel.
As a person who came from the South through the whole bit of segregation, this just means a lot. And being from New London means a lot.
It's a reflection of our past, turned into a shining example of hope. Lynn Joliker, Fox 61 News at 10.
Thank you, Lynn. The state of Connecticut pumped $2.5 million into the building of the Amistad. That's how much it cost to build the Amistad. Today, one legislative leader was on board to experience the results firsthand, and he says it was money very well spent.
Being involved with the Amistad was another opportunity to cause another educational tool to be used to teach our youngsters, and not only our youngsters, but as well adults who are interested in the history of this country.
So much more to learn about really all of the vessels in Opsail 2000, but certainly about the Amistad. Lynn Joliker told us a lot about it just a few moments ago.
And someone who knows so much about the Amistad is the captain of that beautiful vessel. We are pleased to welcome Bill Pickney to our studios here on State Pier. As loud as they get, we're enjoying ourselves tonight. We know that the Amistad has an educational purpose, and it was very historic, the original ship and the story of how they came over. But tell us, do tall ships have their own mystique besides the history? So many people came out today to see them in person.
Well, I think it's the opportunity for people to step back into the 19th century, to an era of high romance and high adventure on the seas. And this is one of the relatively few chances they'll get to see this many ships of this size. Now, these are the A-class vessels here, as well as some of the B and C smaller ones. But it's rare that you get a chance to see this many in one spot.
It is romantic.
Captain Lynn talked about this a little bit in her story, but I want to ask you again what it means to you, given the history of the ship, to be an African-American captain of the Amistad.
Well, I think it's an opportunity for the captain of this ship to take an individual spot in history, because this will only be done once. The maiden voyage, this particular ship has so much history, not just for people of African descent, but for America. It's part of our history, part of our heritage on human rights.
Captain, did you use old ways of constructing the ship to make sure that it actually was a true representation, a true replica?
Well, we're not trying to do a true replica. I mean, there's certain things we have to do. We have budgetary constraints. We also have manpower and talent constraints, because there aren't a lot of people who can build this kind of ship. So we use the modern methods to bring large logs down to the right size, but the old-fashioned methods to trim, fit, and size the pieces as they go together.
And how does she sail?
Fantastically, like a dream. It's like stepping back into the 19th century with a souped-up model of what they had back then.
Very quickly, let's just ask people who come out here to Opsail to see the Amistad, what will they see?
Well, they'll see really a replica of a cargo vessel. Amistad was not a slave ship. It was a cargo vessel that was just drawn into that temporary incident in the slave trade history. And you'll get a chance to see incredible workmanship. You'll get a chance to see a ship that there are very few like today, and to learn more from our display and the things we have to tell you about the whole story of Amistad, not the movie.
And which pier will we find her?
You'll find her on Amistad Pier, which is right where the site of the Amistad was brought in 1839.
That is fantastic. Captain Bill Pickney, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your comments, and we look forward to seeing you during the rest of Opsail.
Thanks very much. Well, okay, now no festival, you know, would be complete without food, and lots of it. Here at Opsail, you can find everything from cotton candy to fried alligator, but it all comes at a price.
It's going pretty well. Considering it's warm out, popcorn doesn't sell too well when it's really hot, but it's been going pretty good.
Don Bureau and his family have been making maple sugar in Old Lyme for years. When he saw maple kettle popcorn at a fair last year, he thought it was a natural extension of the family business. So he bought his own maple kettle popcorn setup and hopes to taste sweet success at Opsail this week.
How's this one going so far?
Pretty good.
Most vendors here say the same thing. On the first day of Opsail, the crowds are big and hungry, and the 120 food vendors here are off to a good start.
This is not the most scenic stroll here at Opsail. We are behind some of the food vendors at Fort Trumbull State Park. But close your eyes right here and breathe in. And the aromas of the bread frying and the burgers grilling and the fruit blending and the maple corn popping and the clam chowder simmering. And this becomes one of the most beautiful spots at Opsail.
Some people complain the prices are too high, $3 for lemonade, $5 for fish and chips, but these people don't seem to mind.
How's the fish and chips?
Absolutely great. It's my second time.
The vendors explain their overhead is high and they have to pay employees for long hours of work.
Hey, how long are you on for tonight?
Quite a while, I think.
Still, the vendors expect to make a healthy profit.
Well, you hope to try to make at least 3 to 4 times the fee, and the fee here was quite high.
Now, just a reminder to those of you coming down here this week, State Pier in New London is host to some of the largest tall ships as well as other activities. City Pier in New London also has a new pedestrian walkway to view the ships. There are shuttle boats that'll take you across the river to Groton as well, where you'll find ships at Groton Pier and at Fort Griswold.
And again, everything you want to know about Opsail is on the World Wide Web at fox61.com. Just click on the Opsail icon right on our front page.
All right, that is going to wrap up things for us here in New London. For now, we will be back later in the newscast. with more.
Alrighty, for now though, let's head it back to Fox 61 Studios in Hartford and Carolyn Salerno.
Hey Brent, I think that fried dough looked really good. It was a beautiful spot, I think, where you were standing. But when we come back from the break, we're going to have a look at the rest of the day's news, and here is what's ahead.